Hello everyone, it's Steve with Aptera Owners Club. This morning, Io, one of our community members, emailed me and noticed something on this video from Bearded Tesla Guy. So there were several other people. I think Kyle from Out of Spec Reviews also drove the Aptera, or what got a ride in the Aptera at the Tesla Takeover. And Bearded Tesla Guy was another person at the Tesla Takeover who had an interview with Chris Anthony. There was something in this interview that Io noticed that I happened to miss when I was browsing through it, and it's actually very, very interesting. So I wanted to kind of watch this segment with you and then go over the implications of it, because this is something new that I hadn't heard of before and is actually kind of ingenious.
And what are the battery?
And I put the subtitles on because the background music in this video makes it hard to understand.
Configurations as far as range goes, the options for range, what do you have?
250, 400, 600, and 1,000.
Yeah. So 4 options actually. I didn't realize you had 4. I thought you had 3. Is that new? Like newer? Did you come up with a 4th one?
No, we came up with 400, and then we just decontent that one for 250.
Okay.
And then we actually use a taller cell, so our standard pack is the 2170, just like in a Model 3 or Model Y.
Okay.
Okay, so he's saying that the 250 is just going to be decontented. So basically, it's the same battery pack structure as the 40. And if you guys remember, this is what the battery pack looks like. It's 6 modules, right? And they're just going to they're going to take some cells out of these to make it 250. So making it a smaller, the physical size of the battery pack is going to remain the same in the 250. There'll just be fewer cells in them, which makes it cheaper to manufacture because all the parts remain exactly the same, except that they just put less cells in them. And that saves re-engineering costs and retesting for rigidity of the pack and all that stuff. Now, what's interesting is I always assumed that for the larger packs, they would have to reconfigure these things to make more modules or something like that. And that's always been my assumption. Or maybe they were going to go to like the 4680 cells that Tesla's using in some of their vehicles and have to completely reconfigure it. That seems to not be the case. So listen carefully to what he says. So currently we know that Aptera is using the 2170 cells. And if you look at this, the way that this works is the first 2 numbers indicate the diameter of the cells. So 2170 means it's 21 millimeters in diameter, and 70, the 700 denotes the length being 70 millimeters. Okay, and so I looked at, so here's a list of cylindrical lithium-ion rechargeable batteries. And so you guys remember the first Teslas were built out of this 1865. So that means it's 18 millimeters in diameter and 65 millimeters in length. And this was found in a lot of laptops back then. And that's what went into the Roadster and the Model S and a lot of the early Teslas. Tesla then eventually switched over to this 2170 cell, which is a larger cell and a higher capacity cell. And that's what Aptera is using. And so I figured that Aptera might switch over to this 4680 cell, which is 46 millimeters in diameter and 80 millimeters in height. Okay, but if you listen to this, that's not the case.
MC811, same chemistry as in a Model 3 or Model Y. And then to get the bigger packs, the 60 kilowatt hour pack uses a 90 millimeter tall cell, and a 100 kilowatt hour pack uses a 120 millimeter tall cell.
Okay, so that's very specific. So he's saying that they're going to use a 2190, so 90 millimeter tall cell, and a 21, I guess 120. So 120. So the diameter is going to stay the same, but the height is going to get taller and increase capacity by making the thing taller.
Okay. So that allows us to use all the same power busing and BMS and power distribution and the same battery case and all that stuff. We just need the carriers to be a little taller. And that's something Sandy Monroe told us was, simplify, make the parts do multiple duty. Don't design 4 distinct packs, dummy. Design 1 pack and then change the cell to make them different versions. So.
And then adds.
Okay, so I think that's very clear. So what they're saying is these battery packs, they're going to use the same BMS, the same bus bars, And so you remember the bus bars look like this. This is from Raj's when he went to tour the factory right before fully charged. These are the bus bars. So if you're using the same, if you use a different size cell, you're gonna have to reconfigure all of these. And you know, these cell carriers, you're gonna have to remake these for different cell sizes. But if the cell diameter is the same, then you can use the same part for the bottom and the top. You just need the height of the battery pack to be different. And you can use the same bus bars, the same BMS, the same power distribution things. So essentially everything remains the same except for the height of this battery pack. And so you're gonna have 6 modules, just the height will be different, and then you're just gonna have to make a different battery pack, the steel in the aluminum enclosure for the height. Now what's a little weird is that if you look at this render of the battery pack, it looks like they're going to use N cooling, because you can see the cooling channels here, and you can use a cooling plate to N cool the cells, and that's what Tesla is doing with the 4680 cells. They're N cooling it. But I wonder if that's still going to work if the cell height is like almost double. It goes from 70 millimeters to 120 millimeters. So that's a lot of distance from here to here to get the cooling out to here. So I'm sure that they've thought about it. I mean, this is something that came to me after thinking about it for 5 seconds. So I'm sure that professional engineers have definitely thought about it. If a non-engineer thinks about it within 5 seconds. So I'm guessing that they figured out that that's okay. But the beauty of what we found out from this interview is that Aptera is already thinking many steps beyond us, and they have decided that they're going to reuse many of the parts, which makes it easier and cheaper to manufacture the other battery packs. So what was confusing to me is I had never heard of cells that were 21 millimeters in diameter and 90 millimeters tall, or 120 millimeters tall. So I went on Wikipedia and I searched Google and I searched all over the place, and I could not find these cells. These cells, as far as I can tell, do not exist. They are non-existent cells. So you clearly see the 2170s. This is an existing cell, and you do not see anything else. I mean, there's a bunch of 25 and 26 millimeter diameters ones, and they're in various sizes, and there's some 32 diameter sizes, 38 diameter sizes, and there's of course the 4680 that Tesla introduced. But there is nothing that says like 2190. Like 2190 does not exist, and 21120 also does not exist. So I thought, I mean, is Chris misspeaking here? Is he a little confused about what's going on? Because these cells do not seem to exist, and of course, if you design a battery pack for cells that don't exist, that's a problem. So I did reach out to Aptera, and they did confirm to me that these cells do not exist, but they will be hitting the market soon in the next couple of months. And they've talked to suppliers, and suppliers are going to be making cells in this size. So again, they are many steps ahead of us. And that was really, really good to hear. And I thought that was a very good catch by IO. Thank you for emailing me and telling me about that. That Aptera has designed their battery pack in a way that they can reuse almost all the components of the pack and just change out the cell size for the 60 and the 100 kilowatt pack, which was always a mystery to us how it was going to work, because I just assumed that they would have to add more modules and string them up in parallel. And we didn't know how that would work in terms of packaging, but this makes packaging a lot easier too, because then you just make this pack either 20 millimeters taller, which should be fairly inconsequential, or 50 millimeters taller, which is a decent size increase. But if you made the belly drop down a little bit, I think you could accommodate the 100 kilowatt hour battery. Just because it's essentially the same size battery pack, but 5 centimeters thicker. And then they can reuse all their parts, and that simplifies their supply chain and simplifies their bill of materials. And the only thing they need to change is the height of each module. So I think that is awesome engineering, and evidently that was a suggestion by Sandy Monroe, and that's that's paying dividends for them, and I think it will pay dividends for them once they get to manufacture. So I think that's great news and a very interesting tidbit. And good to know that these currently non-existent cells, the 2190s and the 21120s, will be hitting the market. And Aptera is talking to several manufacturers about it. And it's not just Eve Energy, because remember they announced that they're working with Eve Energy. They will be working with several other companies. One of them was Formosa. That was another one that they partnered with, probably for lithium iron phosphate. And then this whole thing makes us wonder how the lithium iron phosphates are going to be. It's possible that they may move to a lithium iron phosphate that's a taller cell like the 2190, but retains the 40 kilowatt hour pack. So it may be like the physical size of a 60 kilowatt hour NMC pack, but it'll be a lithium iron phosphate LFP pack that is the size of a 60 but gives you 40 capacity. I don't know, this is just total speculation on my part, but anyway, I thought it was pretty exciting that they were reusing all these parts, and that was their strategy, and they had already kind of thought things through, talked to suppliers, and have everything ready to go with that. All right, well, thanks for watching, guys, and have a great day.